Hey guys, I am coming to you from my vacation, Florida. This is Felicia. I am your host of Own It for Good, where we talk about all things transformation, growth, and what it takes to make that happen, which, in my humble opinion, maybe not so much since I'm here doing a podcast and YouTube channel about it, is really owning it and taking personal responsibility. So I am so happy to have you. At the time of this recording, it is late September in the year of 2021, and I'm on vacation. So those of you watching on video may see a little bit of a different background. Um, and it is my wedding anniversary. So we decided to treat ourselves to a little trip. And we have celebrated 31 years together. 26 of those married. We have a kind of a sweet story. We got married on the 5th anniversary of our first date. So my guy and I, we have grown up together. And I tell you what, the last couple of years have been a little rough with me sort of driving my stake in the ground and deciding to own my life and take it back. And he was just sitting there, watching ESPN, having a good time, not knowing how much I was struggling because I kept a lot of it inside. And so when one person decides to really make a big change, even if you have been together a long time and you really have a deep love for each other, it can be a little bit of an adjustment. It takes a minute when one of you decides to go through a big change and change some things. It changes the we unit. The Dan Siegel calls it the moi. He combined the words me and we. I love that. So our moi changed because I decided to change. So this anniversary in particular is really a sweet one. I'm really proud of us because we've had a few rocky moments the last couple of years. And I think anybody who's gone through a big change and really decide to make some big changes, you probably know what I'm talking about, or maybe you're right there in the messy middle. It's like a pendulum. You swing from one extreme to the other. And I think that's a necessary part of the process. You just, before you can find your rhythm, in order to find sort of where you need to be, sometimes you have to push up to the edges and find out where the edges are. And I'm sure, this won't be the last time. And maybe I will have to go be on the receiving end of him deciding to make a big change. He might go, now it's my turn. Hold on. So anyway, enough about that. I just wanted to share a little bit of that, which is a perfect segue actually into what I want to talk to you about today, and which is the concept of pleasure versus happiness. And yeah, there's been a lot of moments this last couple of years that maybe haven't been so pleasurable, but finally I had the goal of true happiness in my sights and in my mind and in the bigger picture, and was willing to maybe not always do the most pleasurable thing in order to attain true and lasting happiness personally, in my marriage, as a parent, as a professional, all the areas of my life. And so pleasure is the trap that I had fallen into. And a lot of people, coaches I've heard use or motivational speaker, anyway, other people out there often talk about the pitcher plant, which is a thing out in nature that lures insects in through its very sweet smell, but it's also very sticky. But it's so alluring that and it's such a slow slide down that you don't realize that you're being eaten or the insects don't realize they're being eaten. And they're actually enjoying it. Like they don't even realize it, that the substance is not only sticky and sucking them down into the pitcher plant, but it's also kind of gooey and it's dissolving them at the same time. And by the time they realize it, they're too far down. That's kind of like what, if you're focused on pleasure, this can be what it's like when you finally like, wait a minute, all this pleasure seeking is not really making me happy. It's not delivering the results that I kept thinking it would happen. And focusing this much on it is actually making me unhappy. That is the trap of pleasure. And for those of you that are already have been listening to me and watching me, my particular pitcher plant or pleasure trap was the vino one. The couple of glasses of Chardonnay, that was my form of self-care and my treat in the evening. I deserved it. I worked so hard. I, wore all the hats of mom and, doing all the things. And it was finally my turn to, in the evening to sit down on the couch and enjoy that, that drink. And you may be doing that right now too. And maybe you're like, what are you even talking about, Felicia? Wine is enjoyable. And you know what? You're right. It is. That's why I was in that pitcher plant. And, and for me, maybe it's, now, for me, it was multi-pronged. It was not just the wine, but it might be the salty snacks or the extra helping of dinner, because I was, I was stuffing my feelings versus dealing with them, or taking proper care of myself by maybe taking some breaks, saying no once in a while. Yes, the queen of yeses. And a lot of women are like that. I know I'm not alone, because I know I'm in a community of thousands, and it's like we all have different versions of the same story. So pleasure is momentary, but it's very seductive. It's very alluring, and it is pleasurable. The things do taste good. They do feel good. They soothe the senses at the moment. And the temptation is, rather than just, like we want to keep going after it. So when we're focused on pleasure for pleasure's sake, it might be that instead of just the one glass of wine, it's the second or third, or the second piece of cake, or the second trip up into the kitchen for dinner, or whatever it is, or overindulging at lunch, or buying the 10th pair of shoes that are, cute, black and strappy, and, but you already have enough. But these are so cute. You just need one more. It's sometimes that leads to overindulgence. And then what happens is, and it's that seeking of instant gratification. It often borrows from the next day when you cross that line from enjoying it for the moment and in a moderate amount to when it goes over the line. And y'all know what I'm talking about here. So yeah, the second piece of cake, the third glass of wine, it causes that hangover, that word hangover. It hangs over into the next day. You've got consequences. You might have a bloated feeling. You might have waking up at 3 a.m, digestive issues, tiredness, lethargy. It takes your energy. So that is, those are the downsides. Where if we shift gears a little bit and really talk about the concept of happiness, happiness is making that choice from integrity and alignment of, and thinking about the you of tomorrow that has to live with your choices, and the you of next week, and the you of a year from now. Like, we have a community of selves that we live with. And it's keeping in mind, oh, right, I really enjoy going for, a nice brisk walk. And if I do this right now, I might still be able to accomplish that walk, but might not feel very good while I do it. It might not be from that sense of having energy and an overflow from making a good choice that's more in line with what we want to accomplish. If we're focused on pleasure, we often are left with the feeling of being empty, but maybe not even able to understand why. So then we mistakenly think, well, I must need more of this. That's that pitcher plant analogy. And then we also are faced with, if you ever turn on the television or turn on the radio or out in the world and not in your house at all, and if you haven't put yourself in a bubble, then everywhere you go, you're also being faced with temptations of marketing and advertising and other people. And now with social media, we have so many layers. It's hard to escape the lure of the pitcher plant and comparing ourselves and the fear of missing out. Where happiness is, I think her name is Christine Crook. She actually has created a movement around a digital detox called the JOMO, the joy of missing out. That's sort of what happiness is. It's being able to focus on, well, yes, I might miss out on this thing, this pleasurable thing, but I'm going to have the joy that comes from making the choice of missing out. Because every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else, and vice versa. So when you wake up and own it, you really have, you're making choices from the mindful place of how it's going to feel tomorrow. In our community of SoberSys, we use this little tool in our SoberSys language. We call it playing the movie forward. And Jen Couch, our lead coach and program and founder of that movement over there, that is just one of the most useful tools. And that's a really valuable one to keep in your pocket and pull out when you're tempted to buy the pleasure of the moment. To pause, stop, and really think, how is this going to make me feel? Play that movie forward. Visualize, do a mental rehearsal, and then make the conscious choice. And sometimes it may be, to accept the consequences, but make an informed decision. Think about it. Make a conscious decision is what I would invite you to do. And, taking true care of yourself, sometimes it's tempting to use pleasure as the quick fix. And we get on autopilot with this, and especially once we start a habit and we start associating it. This is what our brain, this is the power of our brain, which actually is a beautiful thing. But we really need to respect our brain and the power of our brain and harness it and use it for good versus against us. And that's sometimes when we're not making conscious choices and we allow autopilot to get set in with, reaching for whatever it is the quick fix. Because what will happen is your brain will go, oh, wow, she really likes it when we have that second or third glass of wine, or that second helping of whatever, or she buys the thing. Wow, we should do that every time she has a feeling. And then it starts to associate it. And then before you know it, you might be self-deceiving in thinking, oh, I do it to celebrate. I do it to, it becomes associated with almost every feeling we can have. If I have a great day, time to have the blankety blank. If I have a bad day, time to have the blankety blank. It becomes the panacea and the quick fix for everything. And then that, again, back to the pitcher plant. And then you're sliding down further. And this is a very, and once you've fallen so far down the pitcher plant, it's hard, but it is doable. And the science and knowing how the brain works is like a game changer. It was a game changer for me because once you understand how the brain works, then you can use that same knowledge to change and employ tools that work. The other thing that it does is also gets rid of the shame and the guilt. There's nothing broke. If you are in an overdoing trap of pleasure, over indulging in whatever it is, you are not broken. You are, as a matter of fact, you are working exactly as how God designed you to work. This is a good thing. This is the power of the brain. It's just that we didn't know. So we didn't have proper respect for it. They don't teach us this in high school, or even college, in most places that I know. And our parents maybe didn't know it. They were doing their best they can. But this isn't, and hopefully, with the advent of podcasts and self-education and coaching, this will become more and more widespread knowledge. But for now, when you learn this, it's like, why didn't somebody tell me? Well, most likely they didn't know themselves. We're all just doing the best we can. So understanding how the brain works and knowing also that you are not, that lower brain is there to serve you always. So every quote unquote negative habit is there to serve you and help you, even the overindulging in pleasure. So if you're out there just feeling defeated and broken, like something's wrong with you, you're feeling shame and guilt, please know that there's no room for that. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's just, think of it like a computer program. You've just installed, maybe some malware has gotten in there. And we just need to do a little bit of a reboot, a little bit of, maybe installing an upgrade. And that takes time, but it is doable. So number one, I hope if you take nothing else away from this message today, is that there is hope. And there's a lot of hope. This is an empowering message. So empowering, versus having to put a label on yourself saying you're a something-aholic, and then you're just kind of stuck with this, and you're always, that deprivation mindset of, and always going without. No, we get to have joy now. We're inviting joy back in because now we're going to take a deep dive into some of these concepts, how the brain works, why we do what we do, and then we're going to put all of this powerful knowledge to work for us. Yeah, this isn't going to work unless you're willing to do the work, but there is hope. And this fundamental understanding of, pleasure versus happiness. This was a big one for me. Oh, yeah, I do want real happiness. I was just looking in the wrong place for it, and realizing, and it takes practice. It takes practice to say no to the second helping, to the glass of wine, to the cute pair of shoes, to, that nice new car that you may want to buy. Because you've always got to pause and think of your bigger goals. And does this choice align with what I say it is that I want? If I want to run the marathon, for me, I actually want to row a marathon. I love my rowing machine. So I am making that, hey, I'm saying it publicly here. Y'all can hold me accountable. I am turning 50 next year in May. So that'll be May of 2022. And I am going to row a marathon. And so I will have this bigger goal in mind now, and I've got to put a plan together. So this is really, this tool right here, and this knowledge of pleasure versus happiness is really gonna kick into gear for me personally. I'm gonna really have to, um, there's gonna be days when I'm not gonna want to do that workout, and I'm gonna have to consciously choose to do something that aligns with my future self, aligns with the overall goal of happiness and satisfaction and contentment versus the momentary pleasure of choosing to maybe sit on the couch instead of, and even right now, doing this with you when I know that there is a sunshine and palm trees and beach out there waiting for me. And I am making an aligned choice because I made a commitment to do podcasts. And I know that the beach will still be there tomorrow. And making that choice, that aligned choice to maybe not have that nap on the beach today, even though I very well could, and I could justify it. That's what we do. We justify, we rationalize. Like, think about that word. It's a rational lie. That's what pleasure does to us. It's a rational lie. Oh, come on. It won't hurt just this one time. And then we keep adding to it, right? And then, the devil literally is in the details. And it is the little choices that we make every day that really define our character. How you do one thing is how you do anything and everything. Think about that for a minute. And then I'm going to take this concept just a little bit further and just bring you into my personal worldview a little bit. And because it's just part of who I am as a believer in Jesus Christ. And if you're not a believer, that's fine. You can turn this off now or just check out, or, if you're curious and want to hear. But this is so true for me, and I want to bring my full self into my discussions. And when I even think of a deeper sense of happiness, the word joy comes to my mind, and joy in the Christian faith, and whatever your faith may be, I'm just talking about mine, but I think there is an element that those that do have a faith walk or a deeper spiritual connection to something that is greater than them do have an even deeper sense of joy, because happiness is still kind of about the self. Pleasure is definitely about the self. Happiness also about the self, and more it's me making choices for me and being aligned, which is all a very good thing, but it's still very me focused. Joy is even deeper. You're connected through happiness and you're making choices for yourself, but in context and in conjunction with the greater good, and with an appreciation of, wow, my experience here on earth is not just about me. There's something bigger going on here. And being connected to that through your prayer life, through meditation, through gratitude, that can really even deepen that and transcend into this even bigger concept of a joy-filled life. And that's what I'm going for. And I really believe that my making choices that are not only in alignment with who I personally want to be, but also kind of checking in with God and saying, what does He want from me? What is, and being a co-creator with Him, and making choices from an aligned place, even with Him, that even brings a sense of joy that surpasses all understanding. That's a verse in the Bible. And there's even a book in the Bible, Ecclesiastes, that kind of is even, it's a wisdom book that is even devoted to this. And one of the scriptures is, I have seen all the works which have been done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity, and all striving after the wind. So this, he had all the money, all the things, and yet it was all striving after the wind. And at the end of the day, and you hear a lot of stories with people at the end of their life, these sort of deathbed conversations, that they realize it's all meaningless. It's all about connection to our loved ones, connection with our world, connection with the whoever created this world. I believe it's God. And that's even when I talk about owning it for good, that's the for good that I'm talking about. This when you feel like you're not only in alignment with yourself, but then yourself is in alignment with a greater good, greater than yourself, it brings a joy and an alignment. And joy doesn't mean that you're happy all the time. Like, it's a joy that even when things are hard, because you're connected to the greater good and you're constantly even thinking about how things all work out in the end, or even when you're in a struggle or in a really hard time, sad, grief, a struggle, there's a piece that, oh, I'm learning something here. I'm growing here. I know that when I get on the other side, trusting in the process, and when I get on the other side, I'm going to be able to make sense of everything that's just happened. And that does bring a deep sense of contentment, joy, purpose, well-being, being in alignment, in that integrity, that place of integrity, being integrated, that I talk about a lot. So, and just to sort of wrap it up, it's knowing and understanding that life is always happening for you. Truly, it is always happening for you, not to you. And that is an empowered place to live from. So you can't, I hate, if this was a new concept to you, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to interact and hear your feedback. But what do you think about this concept of pleasure versus happiness? And you can't achieve happiness by adding more pleasure. I know, I hate to break it to you. And oftentimes it actually, in fact, delivers, it steals, because it takes from your future. And if we can think about that in the moment, that might help you make a more aligned choice. So anyway, I hope you have a great day. I know I'm going to have a great day. And I am going to go out and catch some sunshine and some waves, and appreciate some palm trees, and some time with my loved one. But I sure did enjoy talking with you about this today. And until we meet again, peace out.